Fanboy, I'll keep it short and sweet for you and the rest of the advocates. I love Superman 3. No notes. It's got all the heart, humor, charm, and the effects of the originals. Maybe even more epic because it's on an even smaller budget. So, unless you're one of those weirdos mad about Richard Pryor, we could wrap up early this week.
This is OX Solo, the Cinema Advocate. Look at that smile. Not a care in the world. Figuring out which movies are good and bad should be easy, even for this dumb dope. But when you look inside OX Solo's head, you'll understand why he has trouble making up his mind. On one side,
I'm his fanboy side. Without my unabashed love for movies, this pasty tub over here wouldn't even exist.
And on the other side,
I'm the cinephile side, and I don't just watch films, I critique them. And as an award-winning filmmaker, we are perfectly prepared to let you know why damn near every movie that has ever been made, short of Deflator Mass, is a waste of the film that it was shot on. Yeah, I totally disagree.
and seriously, this happens damn near every single movie. Sometimes they agree, usually they don't. But whose argument will OX side with in the end? It's always a battle inside OX's head, and he's constantly stuck being of two minds.
So, of course, before diving in, we did our homework and watched what Siskel and Ebert said about Superman 3, and it's ironically the same episode they reviewed The Man with Two Brains, which we totally ripped off for our logo. And here's what these guys had to say.
I am of two minds about this movie, so to speak. I laughed.
Quite the little cosmic middle finger to a new review show like ours. Let me tell you something, boys. We will not be bullied, okay? First of all, it's called HD. Look it up. B, that's the worst set I've ever seen. It looks like first-gen AI. Hashtag up your prompt game. Not to mention the dad glasses and the weird hairline. And D, grow the flip up. You're grown-ass men on the internet pretending to be... What do you mean they're dead? Oh, like because I'm roasting them right now? Roasting them hardcore? Actually dead. Damn, y'all hear that? Cinephile's cold, pretty much saying if he sees them, it's on sight. Let's just start the review, shall we? Whoa, who the hell are you? Oh, get it? Because I took my glasses off. No, seriously. Who the f...
You Superman 3.
Watch the trees.
This time is going to be the best time of all.
Oh, hey, welcome back, Cinephile. No, okay, now, seriously. Tell me that you're joking about liking this movie. Superman 3 is without a doubt the worst Superman... It's the second worst Superman... Third worst it's one of the worst Superman movies of all time, okay?
Smart guy.
It takes all the things we loved about the originals and it abandons them for cheap humor and a celebrity cast member that turned the movie into a show about himself rather than Superman. Great one. I see what you did there. You gave a rundown of Superman 2 and you applied it to Superman 3. That's brilliant satire. Wait, what are you talking about? Nothing I said applies to Superman 2. There you have it, folks. A classic example of why fanboys dump hate onto particular entries of their beloved franchise using pseudo-intellectual sounding arguments, not realizing that if these were truly the problems with the movies, they would be problems with the other movies as well. Seriously, what the hell are you talking about? Superman is basically a perfect superhero sequel. Possibly the greatest superhero movie of all time. A sequel to the original Superman the movie, and the reason they were so great is because the filmmakers took the source material seriously. They didn't have a bunch of cheap jokes and over-the-top performances that took the spotlight. Okay, yeah, I see that. I get that. Well, it looks like we're going to be here a bit longer than I thought, so please, fanboy, I think we're all a bit shocked and interested how you, of all people, can be hating on one of the Christopher Reeve Superman movies. Well, because that's the reason why. Because first off, let me clarify things. I'm a fanboy, a Superman fanboy. So when I see Superman being portrayed in ways that are not Superman, I'm not going to cheer for it. And what about this movie is not Superman? All the funny stuff, the fact that Superman is hardly in his own movie, No Superman and Lois? Where should I start? Well, I don't know. You pick one of them. Use your big boy words and go ahead and make the points you want to make. All right, start with the fact that the tone is drastically more different. It's goofy because they decided to cast Richard Pryor. Doesn't mean it had to lean so heavily into the slapstick. So true. They should have instead had Luther back in the role instead of Webster, and instead of Richard Pryor, have Otis come back and be the bumbling guy that realizes he has a savant-like gift. You know, keep it serious and grounded like the first couple of movies. Yeah, exactly. Wait, all right, let's break this down. So you're standing there and telling me that Superman 3 is trash because it's silly. It has an over-the-top comedian hogging the screen time, and it undercuts the serious, mythic tone of the franchise. Is that correct? Yeah, exactly. It turns Superman into a sideshow in his own movie. It's all about Richard Pryor clowning around. Meanwhile, Superman's off what? Having an existential crisis. You say that like it's a bad thing and not the best part of the movie. The junkyard scene, literally Superman's ego versus his id, his darker impulses, his selfishness, his anger, his lust, his power, physically ripping out of him to become a separate person he has to then conquer. Name one other Superman that dives directly into his psychology in that way. Yeah, but all for what? So that after that he can fight a giant computer at the end? Yes. Like in pretty much every Saturday morning cartoon that he was ever in. That's called a comic book plot, fanboy. Giant evil computers, perfectly in line with the source material. And by the way, it's hilarious how you complain that Superman gets sidelined when in Superman the movie, the whole first hour is literally Jor-El and teenage Clark Kent with Lex Luthor eating up half the runtime, with his comedic schemes and quite a bit of heavy focus on his goofy comic relief assistants. In Superman 2, those goofy characters are back and have even more screen time with Zod and company chewing scenery for another 20 minutes at a time, and we love it. So Richard Pryor suddenly where we draw the line. So we're just going to keep ignoring the Richard Pryor problem, because last time I checked, this was supposed to be a Superman movie, not the Richard Pryor show. There it is, with another classic complaint. Look, Richard Pryor is absolutely goofy. He mugs for the camera, he slides across ski slopes, he cracks one-liners that sometimes don't land, but he's also the literal catalyst of the entire plot. He's the one who accidentally figures out how to hack into the financial systems, triggers all the satellite disasters, and builds the supercomputer that becomes the real threat by the end. That lines up perfectly with the earlier movies, where Lex Luthor hams it up in underground layers for half the runtime. In fact, I'd argue Ross Webster, the billionaire whose only goal is to control coffee and oil markets, is a better Lex Luthor than Lex Luthor, because at least he's actually a billionaire obsessed with global resources, not just land speculation like Hackman's Lex in the first two movies. Lex wanted beachfront property in Nevada. Webster wants to own half the planet's supply chain. That's comic book villainy done right. But it's so childish, and the first two felt so epic. It had gravitas. The first movie literally opens on a child reading an action comic. Superman turns back time by flying around Earth backwards, which somehow rewinds the universe. That's a Bugs Bunny gag, not some grand, elegant solution. And in part two, he pulls a cellophane S out of his chest like a ninja net, kisses Lois so hard she forgets everything, a power he apparently saves for selective amnesia, because otherwise Lex would have been puckered up in the part one and we'd all have been home by lunchtime. And you know what this really is? It's nostalgia. You don't hate Superman 3 because it's goofy. You hate it because it's not your first ride. The magic you're chasing is tied to seeing Superman for the first time. That's not the movie's fault, that's your fault. That's just how your brain works. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. So I guess all criticism is invalid now? Wow, doesn't that sound familiar? And since I say it to you damn near every movie, the answer is no. But that's exactly the difference between a fanboy and a cinephile. A fanboy such as yourself judges a movie by how well it delivers what he personally wants or remembers. Right. A cinephile like myself, or maybe I'm more of a nostalgia critic. Whoa. I think that name's already taken. Oh, fine, scratch that. A proper critic judges a film by what it sets out to do and how well it accomplishes that. Superman 3 was always pitched as a lighter, kid-targeted adventure because that's who's buying the comics, the lunchboxes, the action figures. And on that front, it absolutely delivered. It's bright, global, funny, and yes, ridiculous, just like the character's roots. Well, But as a cinephile, don't you agree that it should be somewhat like the original movies? It does. Hijinks in the Daily Planet, check. Superman saving Jimmy, check. What are we talking about here? Is it really just because of Richard Pryor? You know what's funny? Even Siskel and Ebert said that Superman 3 had lost the magic, but what they really meant is it just didn't give them the thrill of seeing Superman fly for the first time. Guess what? That's not a flaw in the movie. That's just how human brains process repetition. Well, if all that is the case, then why does Superman 3 feel so different from the first two movies? Well, because in a way it very much is different. And here's the big secret people never like to think about. Superman 1 and 2 were shot mostly back to back. The majority of Part 2 was already shot during production of Part 1. That's why they have the same look, the same sets, the same vibe. It was basically one long production sliced into two movies. Of course it feels like the same magic. It literally was the same shoot. By the time Superman 3 rolls around, it's a new production, new director, new story. It's not chasing the same aesthetic because it doesn't have to. Oh, and by the way, the new director was also the credited director of Part 2, Richard Lester, who brought in plenty of the aesthetic from the originals. Oh, and by the way, the darkest, creepiest villain moment in the entire series isn't Zod threatening the president. It's a screaming woman getting forcibly turned into a metal horror show. Pretty sure 8-year-old you still had nightmares about that. You're right. And the same director actually makes everything you said even worse because the tone is so different. I mean, the opening is Superman saving some random guy from drowning in a car. It's pretty low stakes cheese, man. You mean after like Superman's big reveal in the original when we see him saving a cat from a tree, which then immediately gets a little girl slapped by her mother for lying?
That was messed up.
If we're measuring cheesy here, I think both movies have pretty pungent moments of fromage. The real difference is just which cheese your nostalgia prefers. Fromage, it means like cheese. Oh, all right, then I'll hit you with this. It's cheap effects, fast schedules, corner cuts everywhere. That's why it feels off. Congratulations, you've unlocked the IMDb trivia section. Let me ask you something. When you were a kid watching this in your Superman pajamas, did you ever once think, wow, I can see the matte line around that shot? Of course you didn't. You were fully locked in. And now, 40 years later, you're going to sit here and act like optical lines ruin the Superman movie that genuinely was our first introduction to the series. That's disingenuous at best. And at worst, you're a hypocrite. Because just 3 weeks ago, you literally said this.
Okay. I am so tired of that crutch of cinephilism. So unless a special effect is so bad it takes you completely out of the movie, you really shouldn't be talking about it in regard to the effectiveness of the movie. And let me tell you why. The original Star Wars, even at the time, had some janky-ass effects. Right next to some revolutionary ones. But guess what? People praised them both. As well they should.
So, unless you were suddenly ripped out of the story as a kid by seeing a matte line, I'm gonna say your argument's purely hindsight snobbery. Something you accuse me of all the time. Why do you keep talking about the reaction we had as a kid? We're not kids anymore, so why wouldn't we judge the movie as we see it as adults? I suppose the reason you wouldn't do that for anything aimed at children. Look, hard fact, fanboy, you getting older doesn't actually change the fact that Superman 3 was intended for the young child version of you. That was its intention. But the first movies were made for kids as well. They were made for the whole family. And it was a spectacle that captured the mainstream audience with its simple tagline, "You will believe a man can fly."
I loved it.
It called to adults who had grown up with the comics, cartoons, and even terrible live-action TV shows, and engaged them with groundbreaking effects, much like Star Wars the year before. But there's a reason why Part 2 only made about 80% of the original, and it's because the attraction was already wearing off. The entire reason Golden Globus even ended up with the rights was because the original team realized that the payoff was not going to be worth the investment. Yeah, but still, it feels like it lost something. I mean, the goofy slapstick opening, Richard Pryor sliding around like he's in another movie. And here's the part that always cracks me up. You act like Superman 3 is some tragic, embarrassing low point of superhero cinema, just because it didn't look or feel like the big prestige movies that came before it.
That feels kind of like a cop-out, man. Like, shouldn't we want more from our Superman movies than just cheap genre pictures?
But you have to judge the movie by what it is, who made it, what it was trying to be. Superman 3 was a lower budget, more kid-friendly comic adventure, and on that level, it's damn entertaining. It's colorful, again, global, and one of the most unsettling villain moments in the entire franchise. Stop pretending every movie in the series has to be chasing the exact same prestige as the original. Sometimes a popcorn sequel is just a popcorn sequel. And judged on that level, Superman 3, more than...
I guess I just feel insulted that you say the movie suddenly became a kid's movie, as if kids didn't like the original.
Oh, please.
Oh, please what? The original's amazing. Fantastical, operatic,
And totally boring to you as a child. Do not even deny it. You know how many chunks of Superman the movie you used to fast forward through. The entire first hour is baby Kal-El in a crystal snow globe. Then Teen Clark moping around Kansas. When you were a kid, you skipped straight to the helicopter rescue because that was the first actual Superman moment. And don't even get me started on your favorite scene to fast forward through. The big romantic centerpiece. The one that critics always call the heart of the film.
What are you talking about?
Oh, come on. Can you read my mind? The floaty, whispery date in the sky with Lois? It's literally supposed to be the emotional high point of the movie. Meanwhile, 8-year-old you was over there in your Superman underoos, smashing fast forward so you could get to Lex Luthor's bumbling henchman and the missile chase. Because, kid, you didn't give a damn about adult romance.
That's completely different.
No, it's exactly the same. You want to criticize Superman 3 for being made for children, but every Superman movie, every comic, every cartoon, every lunchbox was aimed at the younger version of you. That was the point of the movie. The only thing that changed is you grew up, and now you're chasing some imaginary memory of serious Superman that never actually existed outside of your nostalgia.
All right, fine, but the older I get, the more I actually appreciate how the relationship between Superman and Lois is the heart of the first two movies. It's the emotion that anchors the entire spectacle.
Oh, please. That's the heart of the story. A relationship built on the dumbest secret identity in fiction. Lois Lane is supposed to be this brilliant Pulitzer Prize level journalist, and yet she literally can't figure out that the 6'4" farm boy in glasses is the same man who swoops in wearing blue spandex and doesn't even bother to change his hair.
He has a curl.
The epic romance we're supposed to buy into.
It's still classic.
Is it though?
Yeah.
Let's not forget, in Superman 2, after Clark gives up his powers to be with Lois, literally becomes fully human for her. The very moment he gets his ass handed to him in a diner, she basically tells him, I want the man I fell in love with back.
I think maybe we ought to hire a bodyguard from now on.
I don't want a bodyguard. I want the man I fell in love with.
Translation, not you, regular Clark, the Superman version of you. That's the heart you're clinging to. A romance that literally only exists as long as he's a demigod. How deep? And I won't even get into how this so-called beautiful romance was basically a running gag or ignored entirely in most of the comics and TV shows that came before the movies. For decades, Lois was basically there to be fooled, faint, or get tied up while Superman winked at the camera. It was never treated as some romantic opera until Donner got a hold of it. Let's not forget the entire reason Lana Lang exists in the comics is because Lois was naively infatuated with Superman and thought Clark was a loser. She's like Nicole Kidman in Batman Forever. The series, Lois Lane's Superman's Girlfriend, was a comedic series where she tried to get Superman to marry her.
Superman, now that I have superpowers, you'll want me for a wife.
No, me! I have superpowers too!
Lois, Lana, stop fighting. Both Lois and Lana have gained permanent superpowers.
I'm tossing you out of Superman's life, Lois. He's marrying me!
Great show, Wonder Woman. Lois, those bullets are bouncing off you. You're super. Like me.
Right, Superman? Now do we get married?
Why is Lois Lane lashing a wooden puppet of Superman? Read The Dummy and the Damsel.
Oh no. The warning light of this emotion machine is registering my jealousy as I watch Superman kiss my rival Lana Lang. I'm sunk. Superman hates jealous women.
You must believe me, Superman. I acquired Kryptonite vision by accident. I meant you no harm.
Lois, take your eyes off me. Go far away. You've become a menace in my life.
Ah! I've lost Superman. He's turning into a tree.
Great Krypton. Oh, a magic spell has turned Lois into a centaur. She'll never be human again.
This was never the timeless romance people act like it was. That came from these movies, and it was to cater to the 1970s audience that liked that style of inner monologue nonsense. Well, hey, at least it's better than wasting all that time on Lana Lang in Superman 3. That romance slows the movie down to a crawl. Oh, wow. So now we're getting to your real problem, because here's the thing. Lana is literally the only woman in the entire franchise who actually loves Clark Kent for Clark Kent. Not the cape, not the flying god, not the power, just the sweet, awkward guy from Smallville. So the same fanboy who waxes poetic about how beautiful Superman and Lois's love story is mad that in Superman 3 he spends time with the only relationship that is ever genuinely about Clark himself. That's not just contradictory, it's shallow, and it proves exactly what I've been saying. You don't actually want Clark Kent stories. You just want Superman to keep revalidating your childhood sense of awe. The same reason you don't like Man of Steel, because it didn't do the John Williams theme song. Wait a minute. You think that's why I hate those movies? Look, at the end of the day, Superman 3 isn't some misunderstood masterpiece, but it also isn't the catastrophic betrayal you keep trying to paint it as. It's a bright, cartoon logic comic book movie aimed squarely at the kid version of yourself. The one in Superman pajamas who never cared about matte lines or whether Lana Lang had the cinematic gravitas of Lois, and maybe that's why you're still mad about it, because deep down, you didn't outgrow Superman 3. You just outgrew being the audience it was made for. So sure, keep talking about lost magic. I'll keep reviewing the movie that actually exists, not the one you wished it grew up alongside you. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll have to go watch the evil robot lady nightmare scene and wonder how in the hell that ended up in a PG movie for kids. Look, alright, fine. Look, I don't actually hate this movie. I mean, I watched it 100 times as a kid. That junkyard fight alone is worth the rental. But come on, it's still a far cry from the magic of the original. Sillier, cheaper, Richard Pryor skiing down a skyscraper, for crying out loud. So yeah, I don't hate it, but it's like, I don't know, I wish it was more like the first one. Which I guess is kind of your point, isn't it? And look, that's really what it all comes down to. Superman 3 wasn't some disaster that killed the franchise. It was a different kind of Superman movie. That's all. Aimed at a different audience at a time when the novelty of seeing a man fly had already started to fade. But here's the real takeaway. Somewhere along the line, people started separating their inner fanboy from their inner critic. They'll rant for an hour about how the Phantom Menace or Superman 3 isn't good because, well, the originals I watched as a kid were better. Like that's some sort of airtight film critique. It's not. That's fan reaction. And don't get me wrong, there's absolutely nothing wrong with being a fan. That's where we all start. But real criticism means stepping back and asking, what did this movie set out to do? Who was it made for? And how well did it pull it off? If more people would figure out when it's their inner child talking versus their inner critic, we'd have a way better conversations about movies. So whether you watch movies as a super fan or a super critic, remember that movies are meant to be enjoyed. So you should always watch them as a cinemadvocate like me, because the best movies are always of two minds. We'll see you Madvocates next week.
As long as we've got movies, we've got the world in our hands. From cult classics to blockbusters, lands through laughter and tears. The passion won't quit. Oh, it's solo, the Cinemadvocate.
And of course, that ludicrous ending where Superman calls on his dog to basically come in and recreate the ragdolling scene of Loki from the Avengers. God, that was so lame. Well, we can agree on that. So I assume from this whole Batman reference that we're going to do Batman v Superman next week?
No, that's just my normal Friday hat.
No, I was thinking since dinosaur movies are back, baby, we could review our favorite but often misunderstood dinosaur movie. Are you down, Cinephile?
Now that sounds like a great idea. So join us next week when we look at
Jurassic
Land Before
Park
Time.
3.
Wait, what the